Hey y'all, welcome back to another episode of Harrison Talks Pod, episode 68. Today we are talking about the Cleveland Cavaliers and a team that I think is entering one of the most interesting seasons for the NBA. Cleveland won 52 games last season, made the Eastern Conference Finals, and looked like one of the better teams in the league. But then, of course, New York swept them, and some problems that were very obvious in the playoffs that were maybe less obvious in the regular season. This offseason, Cleveland has extended James Harden, brought back Donovan Mitchell, and added Payton Watson to give them more size and versatility on the wing. So today we're going to look at what went wrong in their playoff run, whether James Harden can fix Cleveland's half court offense, what Watson and Evan Mobley could mean for their team's ceiling, and whether this roster is actually better equipped to make a deep playoff run. We have a lot to talk about today. Find all the side panel network links in the description, and let's go. Again, guys, welcome back. Hope you're well. We're not going to talk about LeBron James too much this episode. Maybe we'll just do it right now. That was an exciting part about their offseason, I guess, with Cleveland, or not exciting, or maybe you didn't care if you're a Cavaliers fan. I certainly didn't care, and I've spoken on past episodes about how I didn't want to see the James connection. I didn't want to see it 10 years ago. I don't want to see it with a 38, right? 38 years old James Harden and 41-year-old LeBron James. No offense to either of them. Actually, a little bit of offense to James Harden, maybe. Anyways, in context of that, I'm very much more excited about what they have done this off season so far. And at this point, during recording this, I'm recording this on a Saturday evening or a Saturday morning in the USA. They still have Cam Whitmore, but I'm pretty sure by the time this comes out, he will already be gone. So, as mentioned at the top, they won 52 games last season, good enough for fourth place in the East, only one game behind the third place New York Knicks, who ended up sweeping them and winning the finals, of course. Very high in their offense, averaging 119.5 points per game in the regular season, good enough for a plus 4.1 net rating and a 118 offensive rating. For the playoffs overall, that dipped to 108 points per game, or rather 107.9 and 110.5 offensive rating. And then when they got swept by New York, that went down to right around 100.5 offensive rating for those four games and 120.6 defensive rating. So going from a very high and then improving offense going post trade deadline to a worse offense and much worse defense against the New York Knicks. So, uh, good, decent team, but clearly was not good enough to compete against some of these top teams and the top teams in the Eastern Conference last year. So, did Cleveland actually change its biggest problem, or did they just kind of rearrange their roster a little bit? No like blockbuster signings for them, but did they make incremental changes to be able to compete in the East, which we've talked every episode? The East is going to be better next season. Not just the Sixers, but just many teams overall are going to be healthier and better. So regular season certainly wasn't fake, and adding James Harden became an important piece to the Cleveland Cavaliers as expected. So, one of the bigger moves of the trade deadline last season, Cleveland acquired Harden from the Clippers for Darius Garland and a 2026 second round pick. And that was a big shift, of course, trading I guess James Harden's 37. Never mind what I said at the top. Trading a 26-year-old who's been a part of Cleveland's foundation for a while and trading it for a 36-year-old superstar who's former MVP. And, what more can you say about James Harden's offense? And yeah, big change in their core. And clearly, this was something Cleveland did to try and get a little bit better on their offensive end and try to make a run last season. And I think with the moves they made, they have to be all in this season. If James Harden's going to win, he's going to have to win now. And it certainly seems like he raised the ceiling for Cleveland last season, and we'll see what Darius Garland does in the long term. Did not have the healthiest season last season, only played 22 games for the Cavaliers before being traded. And in the 22 games that James Harden played out of his or no, 26 games, sorry, out of his 70 games overall. He averaged 20 and a half points, 7.7 assists for Cleveland in those 26 games. We mentioned the dip in points. We mentioned the worst offense. What else? Assist went from 28.3 in the regular season, which is great. Probably will improve this season, or hopefully will for them. Dipped to 21.7 overall for the playoffs, and then dipped even more against the New York series. So, looking at the numbers of that series, it wasn't just that they were missing their threes or they're missing their shots. It was the having less ball movement, having lower efficiency, having fewer assists. And I think we can see that the Knicks demonstrated that adding another creator like James Harden by itself doesn't guarantee that Cleveland will be able to generate efficient offense against a physical playoff defense like the Knicks. Went on to win the finals. So let's move on. Of course, Max Strus was a valuable player offensively as a shooter for Cleveland, 11.2 points per game, 40 points from three. Losing him, but gaining Payton Watson is a big bet for this team, and I think a bet that will pay off. Of course, he's young, 23 years old. He can stretch on offense and defense at 6'8", average 14.6 points per game, which went up to 17.3 as a starter for Denver, 4.9 rebounds, 2.1 assists, shot 41% from three, 59% true shooting percentage, and was a plus 3.6 net rating overall for Denver last season. And the good news for Peyton Watson on this team is that I think he can play the exact same role that he would have been playing or should have been playing on Denver. He doesn't need to be a high volume scorer, and I'll say a similar thing about Evan Mobley here in a moment. But he needs to be able to stretch on defense, be able to defend bigger wings, shoot when he's left open, attack closeouts, rebound, just do all the other things that maybe a James Harden won't do for you, or something that will complement James Harden or Donovan Mitchell when they have the ball and they're creating that offense. Just another reason why I didn't want to see the LeBron James experience. This is, I think, much better, right? Or is it Cope? I don't know. You tell me. You tell me. But um, doesn't need the ball. That's valuable. Mitchell and Harden can create, and Mobley can be another offensive hub. And I just like the length size of this team overall. It makes, I think, a lot more sense as like a James Harden slash Donovan Mitchell team, or however they use those rotations. So Cleveland gave Denver a sign and trade worth 4 years, 88 million, and an unprotected 2031 first round pick. Wow, amazing. So, did Cleveland just buy a player, or the possibility of a player? That's the big question. But I like it. I certainly like the fit a lot. Uh, Future episode, what does Denver do? But that's a whole different question. Mentioned Garland just a little bit. For the 26 games he played for Cleveland before being traded, averaged 18 points a game, 6.5 assists per game, shot 36% from three, 45% overall. And with him, Cleveland posted a 117.7 offensive rating, 114.7 defensive rating, and a -3 in the net rating in those games. While Harden in 26 games, why not compare? 26, 26, averaged 20.5 points per game, 7.7 assists, was positive in his net rating, and Cleveland had a slightly better offense and pretty much the same defense. So again, Payton Watson, you need to be a glue guy on this team. So clearly, James Harden gives Cleveland a different look offensively than if you were to have Darius Garland. I always feel a certain way about it because I'm very biased against James Harden, but I'll try to separate that. Definitely helps give Cleveland a lot of different looks offensively, and they do need to solve how they rotate between and with having Donovan Mitchell and James Harden on the court together. Donovan Mitchell had a very nice regular season. His points dipped in the playoffs slightly, but the efficiency and the shooting fell quite a bit, and the 3 point shooting could be better, which we could think of as a positive. Still 27.9 regular season, 26 for the playoffs, but shot 36% from three in the regular season from three. So there's still room for improvement there. Harden, on the other hand, 36 years old, shot just 29% from three in the playoffs. So expect his efficiency to go up. And I think there's going to be better continuity with him on this team now that there's been more games, a playoffs, an off season, and hey, he has his new deal now. So hopefully he is comfortable there. So, can James Harden make Cleveland harder to defend without making them also easier to attack? And again, it's going to be the Payton Watson experiment to go along with that as well. But this team is going to be pretty locked in. I mean, they're going to have to be just under 80% of their overall cap is between their top five starting lineup players. So they are locked in to try and build around Harden, Mitchell, Watson, Mobley, Allen. And between all of that, I like it a little bit more than I did post trade deadline. We have Harden, we have an organizer, we have Mitchell, we have an organizer scorer, we have Mobley who can hopefully help facilitate more and is going to offer you a lot on defense. Watson will help you space and defend. Allen is going to help you finish and protect the rim. And Kenny Atkinson is going to have a lot of fun trying to figure out how to distribute all of this creation on offense. Evan Mobley, offensively, overall, dipped a little bit. His net rating went from very positive 5.7 in regular season to -6 in the playoffs. Had some bad shooting nights, but had also some very good, decent, very good shooting nights as well in the postseason. Uh, the bigger issue with him going into next season might just be his overall offensive impact, but perhaps having this new look Cleveland offense, maybe that takes pressure off him as well. But I'm still very interested to see how Evan Mobley develops as an offensive player because, of course, we know what the defense is going to bring, but do we see Evan Mobley have a breakout offensive year, or do we just see him create more or become more efficient now that there's going to be so much attention placed on either a James Harden led offense or just a more talented offense overall? And I do think the inclusion and continuity of James Harden there, having him there for now an entire offseason, that's going to help Evan Mobley's offense as well. Just he can focus on setting better screens, better rim running, and he'll be able to maybe play his brand of basketball a little bit more. I'm trying my best with James Harden. I really am. There's still the Allen Mobley question. Combined, they were plus 6.4 net rating during the regular season, and they were also a positive net rating plus 5 in the playoffs together. Um, it's still enough to keep exploring this pairing, and I have a lot of hope for these two. Hopefully, they can keep this front court together, and hopefully there will be less focus on them offensively. Doesn't Mobley doesn't need to be a 20-point scorer, but he still needs to develop to be the all-star level player that we know that he is. Other supporting cast players, I mentioned that on a Saturday morning, it's looking like Cam Whitmore is going to he was part of that Payton Watson 5-team deal, which I'm not smart enough to understand. But Cleveland did send out Max Strus, Trey Mann, Dennis Schroeder, 2031 unprotected first round, 2032 second round pick. Big investment, a lot of money, a lot of assets. But I guess, I mean, nice assets. Max Strus will be nice on what team did he end up on? And Whitmore will be picked off waivers very quickly, I'm sure. Other people though. Jalen Tyson, 13.2 points per game in the regular season for Cleveland. Almost 45% from three, 5 rebounds, and was a plus 3.6 in his net rating. Certainly showed that he could contribute during the regular season. And I think that his shooting and rebounding give him nice complementary skills around this starting five. And I think he's going to be a big player for Cleveland this upcoming season. Had a rough series against New York, shot only 23% from three, only 4 points per game, was way down in the net rating in the negative. But again, that was the sweep against the New York Knicks. Sam Merrill, 12.8 points per game in the regular season, was 42% from three during the regular season, and was a plus 7.7. In the playoffs, only averaged 7.8 points per game on 37% from three on 19.9 minutes. So Sam Merrill, Jalen Tyson were big in the regular season for Cleveland, just needs to remain playable for them going into the playoffs. So, big question, what does this new team actually fix? We have a sort of new look starting five. Their size has improved. Payton Watson, 6'8", gives them a legit big wing to pair next to Evan Mobley, Jared Allen. That's really nice. And you certainly need long, lengthy players if you're going to have Mobley and or James Harden on the floor together. Wing defense, with that being said, better on paper. So it's going to be very exciting to see. With James Harden there now, more games. Their half court creation, I'm sure, will improve. Playoff versatility, I think, is better on paper. And they're going to have a whole season to figure out that half court offense as well. So it's hard for me to imagine they're anything less than competitive unless health is an issue for them. But we're not considering that now. Shooting wasn't always the worst for them. Their offense wasn't always the worst, but it's unclear. Watson shooting 41% from three is encouraging, but they're giving up players like Max Strus, who is already a 40% three-point shooter for you. Jalen Tyson, as we mentioned, was great in the regular season, but really struggled in the playoffs. So they're potentially better, and their defense is potentially better. But there's questions with their backcourt and the rotations there. And of course, money could be an issue for them. Just under 80% of the overall 210.6 million is tied up in their starting five. James Harden got his 3-year, $97 million extension. Evan Mobley is in the second year of his $224 million deal. You have Donovan Mitchell with 4 years, $273 million. Payton Watson, 4 years, $88 million in the sign-in trade. Jared Allen, 3 years, $91 million. So, sure, money could become an issue. And do they go into the first, second apron? That's the part that I should have researched a little bit more, what their intentions are there. But this is clearly the core, with having mostly veterans now, plus a veteran on his way out with James Harden. Clearly, this is a win now group. And they gave up an unprotected 2031 first to bring in Payton Watson. So they did give up a lot of assets, and they don't want to be bad now. They certainly don't want to be bad in 2031 when they are giving up that first round pick. So uh, I didn't have much of a reaction to it when I first heard about it, but the more I've thought about it, the more it's like it sounds like a big gamble for them. It sounds like it's a lot to send out to hopefully get a lot back, but I like it though. 23 years old, great player for Denver, and kind of surprised that Denver made the deal. I'm still trying to process where all the 5 teams from. It's very difficult. Very, very difficult. Can't imagine. All right, we're almost done. All right, so 5 questions I have. Is Peyton Watson the wing Cleveland has been missing? I think that might be a chance. Even better as a starter than he was coming off the bench. He might be right around a 20-point per game scorer, but it's going to have a lot of open shooting opportunities, and it's going to just help stretch your defense. That is the key. He just needs to be your fourth, fifth option on offense on a lot of these nights. Can James Harden, can having him there longer help fix the playoff offense? Of course, he was there last season, and the East might be better this season. Offense dipped for Cleveland quite a bit, dipped very much during the New York series. Turnovers were worse in the playoffs, and these are all things that Cleveland would hope that James Harden could fix. Can Evan Mobley become a offensive hub in the playoffs, going from a very nice offensive year plus in the net rating in the season to -6 in the net rating in the playoffs. Can he make a leap and help just raise the ceiling for Cleveland in the playoffs? Can the defense become a top 10? Because, of course, if you want to contend for a title, you want to be a top 10 offense, defense. Pretty consistent at 114 regular season and playoffs, and had a very rough time against New York. But you hope that bringing in Payton Watson can fix that. And then, of course, question 5 has to be, can they beat the New York Knicks? And we'll see how the New York Knicks do. I'll have to do a whole episode on them to see if they're actually going to be the top threat in the East next season. I don't want to be obvious with Philadelphia, but um, they were my pick in a very strange season last season with so many players being out with injuries. I thought that was the year for them, and I wasn't sure about the Knicks throughout the regular season. Anyways, it's not about them right now. As I said at the top, I think they're one of the more fascinating teams to go into this next season. I think their floor is low to mid 40s easily, and they might not make it far in the playoffs. And if so, that would be a disappointment to them. I think most likely their ceiling and what I think they will more likely do is be above 50 wins, maybe somewhere between 50 to 55, top 4 in the East, maybe back in the conference finals again. Certainly, I think it's going to be a top 4 in the Eastern Conference. And ceiling, I don't know if there will be a 60-win team in the East this season. This upcoming season, I just don't know, but okay, we'll call that their ceiling. So, anyways, guys, I said what I wanted to say. Hope you enjoyed. If you made it this far, like, subscribe, do the YouTube things if you're on YouTube. If not, like, subscribe, and if you can comment wherever you are, do that. And let me know, can Cleveland finally become a harder team to scheme against? And are they raising their ceiling with all these offseason moves they have made this offseason? Hope you guys are well. Hope you have a great basketball week. And I will see you next time.